The fake wealthy daughter released my indecent photos and ruined my wedding. She held my fiance's hand and smiled innocently. Sister. I didn't mean to. I just don't want my brother-in-law to be wronged in the future. Because of this. My parents hated me for being indecent. And my fiancé and younger brother thought I was extremely disgusting. On the day I found the evidence of being framed, for the sake of the fake wealthy daughter, they joined hands and burned me to death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I was first recognized as a member of the wealthy family. Just like in my previous life, the fake wealthy daughter handed me 3 teddy bears with an innocent look on her face. Only I knew that each of these teddy bears had a surveillance camera installed in its eyes. Sister. Welcome home. This is a gift for you. I went crazy on the spot. After slapping her, I picked up a pen and stabbed at her eyes. Give. Then I'll dig out your eyes and soak them in wine for me to drink. One after a slap, Ivy spun gracefully 180 degrees, covering her face, heading fulfilled, and big tears rolled down. Sister. Even if you don't like my gift, you can't hit me. Mom and Dad, I've tried my best. You said I should get along well with my sister. But I really can't do it. I know I stole my sister's life. And I will return it to you slowly. The grievance in her eyes overflowed, and with her lip bit unpitifully, she instantly made my parents, who were full of pity, frown. Before they could speak, I directly pushed Ivy down and then straddled her. I picked up the pen beside me and stabbed at her eyes. Why can't I hit you? I just did it. If you can't do it, why are you still being annoying? Since you want to return my life, then please pack your things quickly and get out of my house. After this outburst, Ivy was left stunned. My parents were so scared that they quickly tried to stop me. Ava, we accidentally lost you back then. And we feel very guilty towards you. But it doesn't mean we will tolerate everything. Aren't you going a bit too far like this? I looked at them impatiently. Yes, having wide session. I'm going too far. And I stared at Ivy and said coldly. The only thing I'm going too far in is still letting you pack your things. These are all things in my house. You get out of here right now. My parents' faces turned pale. Suddenly, Ivy burst into tears, struggled to get up, and carefully held the 3 teddy bears in front of me. Sister. I don't know what I did to make you have such great hostility towards me. These 3 teddy bears were made by me for you. Please accept my sincere feelings. I will definitely perform well in the future and make you change your opinion of me. She was almost beaten into a pig's head by me. But she still didn't give up. In my previous life, I was deceived by her. On her suggestion, I placed those teddy bears in my room, on the sofa, and even in the bathroom. Later, photos of me taking a shower and changing clothes were spread everywhere, and the whole family called me a shameless slut. It was only when I was burned to death that I realized there were cameras in the eyes of those teddy bears. This so-called sister of mine, and my so-called family members, were nothing but terrorists who killed me. I snatched the 3 teddy bears away, and picked up the scissors beside me. So what if you made them by hand? Are they gold-plated? I not only don't want them, but I'm also going to cut them to pieces. Ivy couldn't hide her panic. No, don't. She rushed over to snatch the teddy bears from me. Just as the teddy bear's head was about to be cut by me, my parents also rushed over. Stop it. Don't make a scene. Aviva. You should apologize to your sister immediately. Just like in my previous life. Even though I'm their biological daughter, and they keep saying they feel guilty. No matter what happens, they will unhesitatingly take Ivy's side. I have no feelings for them anymore. I don't want these teddy bears anyway. They're uglier than Ivy. Whoever wants them can have them. After saying that, I threw the 3 teddy bears on the ground. Seeing this, my parents quickly picked them up, patted the dust off, and looked at me with a face full of blame. After all, it's your sister's kind intention. If you don't want them, that's fine. But you shouldn't slander her. At this moment, Hank suddenly lost his temper. Snatched a teddy bear, looked at it with great affection, then roared and rushed towards me with his fist raised. Sister has lived in this family for more than 10 years. Who do you think you are to dare to bully her like this as soon as you come here? You're simply tired of living. Get out of here. He made a big fuss and looked quite intimidating at first glance. But I knew very well that he was just a person who looks good on the outside but is actually useless. I kicked him, specifically aiming at his groin. You keep calling me a slut. Is this what Mom and Dad taught you? I didn't hold back with this kick. He let out a scream, squatted on the ground, and his face twisted in pain. Even in this state, he still didn't forget to hold the teddy bear tightly. My parents were so scared that they quickly went to help Hank. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. I didn't expect that the eldest daughter of the Hank family would be such a rude tomboy. Following the sound, my gaze shifted to Owen. He was my fiancé in my previous life and one of the main culprits who killed me. I smiled at him. What? Is the eldest daughter of the Hank family your father or your mother? What I'm like has a lot to do with you. This is the Hank family, not your Owen family. You don't seem to have the right to judge. Do you? Owen glared and his face darkened. Father Hank. If the person our two families are marrying into is her, I'm afraid our family is too small to accommodate such a great person like her. I directly interrupted him. Don't think for now. Although I'm single, I don't pick up just anything. Owen gritted his teeth and also took a teddy bear. Ivy. Don't argue with her. It's her lack of taste that she doesn't want your things. We all like them very much. Don't worry. I will definitely put it on my bedside. In the most prominent position. Originally, everyone's goal was to protect Ivy and make her happy. Unfortunately, having fulfilled as long as these 3 teddy bears didn't reach my hands, she wouldn't be happy. Thank you all for your kindness. But this is a gift I specially prepared for my sister. And I only want to give it to her. I raised my hand and slapped her hard on the face. Are you being a masochist? Are you deliberately trying to disgust me? Fine. Since you want to give it to me, I'll take it. I'll gouge out their eyes. Gouging out the eyes means the surveillance cameras will be discovered. Ivy was so scared that she almost screamed and quickly shook her head. Forget it. Forget it. If you don't want it, that's fine. My parents also glared at me several times. You're really going too far. Although you're our biological daughter, you're not allowed to be so arrogant and unrestrained here. By this time, seeing that Hank was almost fainting from the pain, they finally sent him to the hospital. The door closed. I quickly went to the bathroom. The 3-story villa had 5 bathrooms. I found all the trash cans and scattered garbage in the living room, kitchen, heaven fulfilled my obsession, balcony, and even on their beds. Looking at the pillows stained with disgusting filth, I left satisfied. They won't let me be unrestrained. But I'll be unrestrained anyway. Oh right. How could I forget? Before leaving, I went to Hank's room and found condoms in the drawer of his room. I found a few needles and poked holes in each of them one by one. Then I clapped my hands and left. I have no feelings for these parents, this sister, or even my fiancé from my previous life. That afternoon, my parents called me. Even through the screen, I could imagine how furious they were. You're really ill-mannered. How could you mess up the house like that? Your younger brother almost lost his fertility. Do you know that? How could we have given birth to a daughter like you? I sneered. Manners? It seems I didn't have parents since I was born, right? The way I am now. Isn't it all thanks to you for giving birth to me but not raising me? If there's nothing else, don't call me again. For the rest of the time, I just wanted to watch the show. I hung up the phone and blocked them all. On this day, having fulfilled my obsession, I had thoroughly checked my room layer by layer and confirmed that there were no surveillance devices in the room. Then I called my friend. When she heard that I wanted her to help hack into Ivy's phone, her excitement disappeared instantly. Is that all? Just wait. Give me the number. 10 minutes later. Open the app I told you about. And you can see whatever you want. You can even store backups in the cloud space. You can use it however you like. 10 minutes later. On my phone, I saw that one teddy bear was placed in the living room by my parents. Another one was accompanying Hank in the hospital. The third one was taken home by Owen and placed on his bedside. A few days later, Hank was discharged from the hospital. I saw him holding the teddy bear tightly and holding Ivy's hand. Ivy, don't argue with that slut. She's not even worth a hair of yours. Don't worry. I will definitely not let down your feelings. Didn't you say before that this is waterproof? I'll put it in the bathroom. And I can see it every morning when I wash up. As long as I see the teddy bear, I can think of you. And then every day of mine will be happy. The words were disgusting. And the way he looked at Ivy made me even more disgusted. These two people didn't look like siblings, but more like a couple. In fact, they were. I just never thought in that direction before. It was only after I died that I found out that Hank, who kept scolding me for being shameless, had actually slept with his own sister countless times. Ivy wasn't very enthusiastic about him. Though, whatever. Put it wherever you like. You said, "What's wrong with Ava? Why is she treating me like this?" She couldn't understand why I wasn't acting like a normal person at all. Hank's eyes were full of Ivy. And he just stared at her with greasy eyes. Why do you care about her? Isn't it just right for her to be like this? Mom and Dad definitely won't bring her back again. And there will be no one to disturb us at home. With a passionate kiss, he failed to notice the disgust in Ivy's eyes. All right. You go back and rest first. 3 Of course. My parents wouldn't bring me back home again. But it didn't matter to me. I had an education and a job. I lived even better without them in the past. My parents didn't contact me anymore. But Ivy was still extremely anxious all day long. I saw that on WeChat. She often showed concern for Owen. That unfulfilled my obsession. When I heard from Mom and Dad that they were going to arrange a marriage alliance with your Owen family, I was really happy. But now, I'm not so happy anymore. Owen asked her why. And she took a long time to reply. If the person who marries you isn't me, to be honest in a selfish way, I'd rather you not get married. Her intention was obvious. And Owen extended an olive branch at the right moment. If I had to marry your elder sister, I'd rather stay single for the rest of my life. You should know who the person really in my heart is. I had already guessed that there was something going on between the two of them. If Ivy didn't want to marry Owen, she wouldn't have tried so hard to take my photos and broadcast them on the big screen at my engagement banquet with Owen in my previous life. If she wanted to marry Owen, she could just tell my parents. Given their affection for her, how could they not agree to it? Perhaps, on the one hand, she was afraid of not being able to explain it to Hank, and on the other hand, she really wanted to make me lose everything and be disgraced. Only when I completely lost the hope of going back home could she whitewash herself from a fake wealthy daughter into a real one. If my reputation was damaged, I naturally couldn't marry Owen anymore. Since the marriage alliance between the two families was already decided and couldn't be changed, then she could marry into the Owen family with a legitimate reason. Couldn't she? Even Hank couldn't say anything about it. It could be said that she really had a good plan. Unfortunately, having fulfilled Lee. What she didn't know was that this only son of the Owen family, who seemed to be clean living and extremely wealthy, wasn't as clean as he appeared. For example, right now, after I saw him put down his phone, he was embracing two beautiful women on each side, enjoying himself very much. Come to think of it, none of these people were any good. It was really unfair that I died at their hands in my previous life. After that, Ivy and Owen, who were birds of a feather, often met and had intimate relationships. Don't worry, Ivy. I'll go to your home tomorrow and ask your parents to let you marry me. Anyway, my parents also agree. I will never marry your elder sister. Ivy nodded excitedly. Okay. The next day, I saw Owen come to their home. Uncle and aunt, I have no fate with your eldest daughter. But I think Ivy has a gentle personality and is very suitable for me. If you can let her marry me, I will definitely do my best to treat her well. My parents had always supported this matter. When they heard him say this, they were just about to nod in agreement when Hank shouted, "No, it's not possible." Several people looked at him like he was a monster. We know you have a deep affection for your elder sister, but she will get married someday. Ivy's smile was a bit stiff. Yes, having fulfilled my sorry. This marriage was decided by the elders long ago. Even if I don't marry, there is no other candidate. Brother. Don't worry. Even if I get married, I will often come back to see you. Hank had a gloomy face. Don't you have a biological daughter? Let her marry instead. Owen frowned. Don't you know what your own elder sister is like? If I marry her back, do I think I have to long a life? My parents won't agree either. Hank didn't say anything, and my parents looked a bit embarrassed. Owen. This matter is a bit troublesome. We still need to discuss this major matter of marriage slowly. Well, Uncle and Aunt still have some things to deal with, so we won't keep you. We'll invite you to dinner in a few days. Owen wasn't in a hurry and left immediately. My parents looked at Hank with a gloomy face. What's wrong with you, son? Why do you always stop your sister from getting married? If it wasn't for you, would we have let that rude girl Ava come back and make a fool of herself? Since she caused that commotion, we are now embarrassed to meet the people of the Owen family. They are willing to overlook the past and still want the marriage alliance. Why are you so unreasonable? For I finally understood. I had always been confused. My parents didn't like me very much. They preferred Ivy instead. I finally knew why they suddenly came to find me. It was for the marriage alliance. The Owen family and the Hank family were well matched in social status. And Owen's public image had always been decent. Just because Hank had been obstructing it and didn't want Ivy to get married, I became the substitute they had to find. In order to keep the person he loved, Hank slapped his chest. Don't worry. I will definitely make her come back for the marriage alliance. Ivy looked at him with eyes that wished she could stab him a few times. Even if you bring her back. So what? With her appearance, the people of the Owen family won't accept her. Hank snorted coldly. That's all an act of hers. I saw her when she was in the orphanage before. She wasn't a crazy person at all. My parents frowned. You saw her? Why didn't you say so earlier? Although we haven't looked for her all these years, she is still your biological sister. Since you knew her whereabouts earlier, why didn't you tell us? Hank's face turned slightly red. Well, I didn't know she was your biological daughter at that time. I only found out when you were preparing for the marriage alliance with the Owen family. The reason why he didn't tell them earlier was that he was afraid that I would come back and compete with him for the family property. Later, when he had no other choice, he told them my whereabouts. My parents didn't love me that much originally, so of course they didn't pursue the matter too much. Finally, having fulfilled my sorry, under Hank's insistence, my parents agreed. That day, Hank brought the whole family to my home. Sister, I will find her. Just come back with me. I was wrong before. I shouldn't have scolded you. I was just too anxious. After all, you are my biological sister. And I can't bear to see you living outside. My parents also put on a smiling face. Yes, having fulfilled my obsession. Daughter. We've thought it through about what happened that day. You grew up in an orphanage since you were a child. It's normal that you have a bad temper. It's all our fault. Come back home with us. We will definitely make it up to you. Ivy, who was the best at acting, didn't say a word throughout. She just glared at Hank once or twice occasionally. I glanced at them and the corners of my mouth curled up. I can go back. Hank. Since you know you were wrong, you have to show some sincerity. How about this? You strip naked and run around the street once. And then I'll go back. What do you think? A trace of viciousness flashed in Hank's eyes. And he forced a dry smile. Sister. You're just joking with me. Right? If I do this, will the Hank family still have any face left? I looked at them with disgust. It seems that you didn't have much face to begin with, right? Either you go streaking, or get out of here right now. Hank gritted his teeth. Don't go too far. I sneered. I've never seen someone begging like you. It seems that you don't really want me to go back either. 5 in my previous life. At my engagement banquet. Hank stood under the big screen with his eyes wide open in anger. Having a sister like her is no different from streaking on the street. She has lost all the face of our Hank family. Such a slut. A shameless bitch. Is definitely not a member of our Hank family. I wanted to see if having a sister like me was really any different from streaking on the street. After weighing the pros and cons, Hank nodded firmly. Okay. I'll do it. My parents' faces looked extremely awful. What grudge do you have against your sister? Why do you have to treat him like this? I looked at them in surprise. I was so focused on dealing with him that I forgot to deal with you too. Sorry. I want to add another condition. If you want me to go back, not only does Hank have to go streaking, but you two also have to follow behind him and tell everyone that he is your son. Didn't they say that I was a disgrace to the Hank family? That I had scratched a scar on the clean face of the Hank family? In this life, I want them to scratch that scar themselves. My parents had dark faces. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. But they couldn't resist their son who was infatuated with love. Hank knelt down on the ground with a thud. Mom and Dad. I'm begging you. I really can't bear to part with my sister. If she gets married, I'll jump off the building and commit suicide right away. Seeing their son in tears, my parents softened their hearts. They gave me a fierce glare. Okay. That night, a video dominated the news in City A. The young master of the John Group is suspected of having a mental illness. He streaked on the street, and his parents accompanied him for 5 kilometers. In the video, Hank blushed and ran for a long time under the strange looks of countless people. This person is crazy. Is he a fool? Don't look. It's so disgusting. How dare he go streaking with such a body? Isn't this the young master of the Hank family? I've seen him in the entertainment news before. My parents rode bicycles and followed behind with their heads lowered. This is our son. Yes, having fulfilled my obsession. He is our son. The comments under the video cursed the people of the Hank family severely. Even the rich shouldn't seek excitement like this. The moral standards are really declining. And it's offensive to public decency. There are also disadvantages to being rich. If one's mind is not right, no amount of money can cure it. If such a person can make money, should we reflect on ourselves? The public image of the John Group hit rock bottom, and the Hank family became the laughingstock of the whole City A. In the APP, I saw that the 3 people of the Hank family cursed me severely. You're such a fool. You were so reluctant to part with your sister that you forced us to do such a thing with you. I'm already so old. And I've lost my good reputation in my later years. How could I have given birth to such a son like you? But Hank smiled sweetly. He looked at Ivy. It doesn't matter. My sister doesn't have to go for the marriage alliance. Ivy smiled, but her eyes were full of disgust. Ivy really didn't have to go for the marriage alliance anymore because Owen's parents came directly to their home. President Hank. Madam. I think that although your daughter is very nice, my son isn't at the right age for marriage yet. We can discuss the marriage matter slowly. There's no need to rush it. Seeing the other party's intention, my parents became anxious as they realized that the Owen family didn't want to form a marriage alliance with their family anymore. Although the Hank family is wealthy and powerful, who would ever think they have too much money? What do you mean by this? President Owen. Please listen to our explanation. There was a reason for that video. The attitude of Mr. and Mrs. Fang was very firm. Regarding that video, well, we understand. Every family has some special quirks. Right? However, our family can't afford to lose this kind of face. After saying that, Mr. and Mrs. Fang stood up and were about to leave. Ivy couldn't wait any longer. Uncle and Aunt. Don't be like this. It was those 3 who did something wrong. Not me. As soon as the words fell, Hank, who had been secretly delighted, looked at her in disbelief. He didn't understand. Did Ivy mean that she was eager to marry Owen? Fortunately, Mr. and Mrs. Fang didn't say anything and left without looking back. 6 with a slap. Hank was even more shocked. He looked at his parents angrily. What are you doing? His parents gritted their teeth and said angrily. Now it's great. We accompanied you in your foolish behavior. And the Owen family doesn't want to form a marriage alliance with us anymore. You unfilial wretch. Hank didn't care at all. He just looked at Ivy with eyes full of scrutiny, shock, and sadness. His parents were so angry that they quickly went out, trying to make amends. The moment the door closed, Hank suddenly grabbed the sleeve of Ivy's clothes. His eyes were scarlet. What do you mean? Do you want to marry Owen? Ivy shook him off impatiently. I should be asking you what you mean. If you really like me, why don't you let me get married? Do you think I'll just live in an improper relationship with you for the rest of my life? Mom and Dad will never agree to our relationship. Hank roared. They don't agree. We can be together after they die. Can't we? If it really comes to that, I'll just kill them. To be honest, I really couldn't see what charm Ivy had that would make Hank willing to kill his parents for her. Perhaps her innate innocent and seemingly harmless demeanor just happened to suit Hank's taste. As soon as the words fell, Ivy was startled. What are you talking about? Hank's eyes became even redder. And his voice became colder. If you really dare to marry Owen, I'll expose our relationship. Ivy calmed down. A trace of viciousness flashed quickly in her eyes. And then she started crying again. I didn't say I was going to marry Owen. It's just that our relationship can't be exposed after all. Hank's heart softened. And he kissed the corner of her lips. Sorry. I was too harsh. Don't worry. I'll find a way. Maybe he was too afraid of losing Ivy. With this kiss, they went into the room. There's no need for me to elaborate on what happened next. After that, the people from the Hank family didn't come to find me again. They were busy negotiating with the people from the Owen family, and didn't have the time to pay attention to me. After all, if the people from the Owen family didn't agree to the marriage alliance, my going back would just make them feel more disgusted. In the past few days, Ivy kept contacting Owen on her phone. It was them who did something wrong. We clearly love each other deeply. Why can't we be together? Owen completely ignored her. Until that day, I saw on the surveillance footage that Ivy was holding a pregnancy test stat and was overjoyed. She called Hank. Upon learning that she was pregnant, Hank was shocked. How is this possible? Every time Ivy's eyes turned red. If Mom and Dad find out about our relationship, they will definitely kick us out. But I really don't want to abort this child. Hank looked frustrated. It's all my fault. I was to care less. Ivy sighed. Well, why don't you let me marry Owen? At least we can keep our child. We can be together after Mom and Dad die. Too. Hank frowned. You just want to marry Owen, don't you? Ivy pretended to be angry. I already have your child. And my entire future life belongs to you. How can you think of me like this? This is just a last resort. Hank went back to his room. After thinking for an hour, he hugged Ivy with a dejected look on his face. Sorry. I couldn't protect you. In that case, marry him. Don't worry. I found out about a kind of medicine from abroad. As long as we put it in Mom and Dad's food, in a year's time, they will die of kidney failure without anyone knowing. Then you can get a divorce. And our family of 3 can live a good life together. Ivy hugged him, wiped her tears. But the corners of her mouth couldn't help but rise. Okay. 7 Owen. You can't be so heartless. I'm already pregnant. This time, the message Ivy sent to Owen received an instant reply from him. Are you kidding me? It's no wonder Owen didn't believe it. After all, he suffered from oligosmoria. And the probability of him making a woman pregnant was very low. Naturally, I only found out about this after I died. So, all these years, when he had a relationship with any woman, he didn't take any safety precautions. But Ivy firmly believed that the child was his. I'm not kidding. I've only had a relationship with you. If you don't want this child, then I'll just have an abortion. Perhaps Ivy was too confident. And there was still a small possibility that Owen could make a woman pregnant. The two of them agreed to go for a checkup the next day. In the afternoon of the next day, Owen's message to Ivy was very enthusiastic. God has eyes. I finally have a child. Don't worry, Ivy. I'll tell my parents this good news. And we'll get engaged this month. As I expected, Ivy easily made him believe that the child was his. After all, Ivy herself believed it. Then it's settled. I already have your child, so you can't lie to me anymore. Owen's oligosmoria had been bothering his parents for many years. Now that they were finally going to have a grandchild, Things like face and reputation didn't matter anymore. The two families immediately discussed and decided that they would get engaged at the end of the month. This time, there was no one to obstruct it. And both sets of parents joyfully welcomed this festive moment. On the day of the engagement, in the most luxurious hotel in City A, almost everyone from the wealthy circle was present. Congratulations, President Owen. Congratulations, President Hank. The newlyweds are a perfect match. They are a handsome man and a beautiful woman. Looking at them makes me think of our youth. There were many people offering congratulations, but few of them were sincere. Seeing the mockery and ridicule in everyone's eyes, the two families tacitly chose to ignore it. Just as everyone was holding champagne and toasting the happy and proud Ivy one by one, I, who was disguised as a hotel staff member, turned on the large screen at the right moment. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? My voice echoed throughout the hotel. I smiled and said, come to think of it, today is really a great day. As Ivy's elder sister, I sincerely congratulate her here. She has finally found a man to take the blame. I hid on the second floor, and everyone couldn't see me. They could only stare at the suddenly lit up screen. In the picture, in the living room, a man and a woman were naked and having sex on the bed. Sister, I like you so much. If only you weren't my sister, I would definitely marry you. This was when their parents were not at home before. The two of them, seeking excitement, completed the act of making love on the sofa in the living room. Thanks to the high-definition camera installed by Ivy, both her face and Hank's face were captured very clearly. Everyone present couldn't help but gasp. Damn, aren't they siblings? This is so exciting. It's so disgusting. My God. The Hank family is really strange. They streaked together before, and now they are having an affair as siblings? Don't you think Owen is pitiful? He hasn't even married her yet. And he already has such a huge cuckold on his head. Soon, wet out a little sorry. Owen's roar sounded. Ivy. You slut. Didn't you say that you've only had a relationship with me? Then, let out a low sigh. Ivy's scream pierced the air. Ah, don't hit me. I was wrong. Owen grabbed her hair and slapped her face hard, not holding back at all. Ivy couldn't withstand it and fell to the ground. Owen didn't feel satisfied and kicked her abdomen hard. You said it was my child. It's clearly a bastard. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Owen was like a crazy beast, and no one could hold him back. After all, going from hope to disappointment and having to bear the humiliation of being cuckolded in front of so many people, no one could swallow this anger. It wasn't until Ivy was covered in cold sweat and blood flowed from her lower body, staining the floor red, that he suddenly came to his senses and released her. Mr. Owen, come to think of it, I'm not surprised at all that you became the man to take the blame. As the saying goes, what goes around comes around. It's not unfair at all for such a terrible thing to happen to you. After saying that, I played the video of O and having a good time with different women every night in his room. 8, more than 20 videos. And there isn't a single repetition. I'm talking about the women. Even if a young man has strong desires, it shouldn't be like this. Right? There were even group sex activities. It's so disgusting. I've really never seen someone who asks a woman to. Owen's preferences are really too special. Owen's face turned red with embarrassment, not knowing how to deal with what was happening. He was just about to run away when Hank grabbed his collar. How dare you hit Ivy? I'll kill you first. Hank punched Owen in the face. Still feeling angry, he was about to kick Owen's groin. I coughed softly. Hank, don't be in a hurry. Regarding your plan to murder your biological parents, I think it's necessary for them to know about it. On the screen, he was holding Ivy and confidently stating his plan to poison his parents to death. The faces of his parents, who had been anxious, suddenly turned pale. Hank, you beast. How could you? How could you want to poison us to death? I punched Hank in the face again, and he couldn't hold his ground and fell to the ground. My mother was also so angry that she slapped him several times. You beast. How could I have given birth to someone like you? Hank was beaten so badly that he didn't dare to fight back. His parents' attacks were like a violent storm, and there was nowhere for him to hide. The scene was very chaotic, and countless people were fighting each other. It wasn't until the hotel security guards cleared the entire venue that Ivy, who was unconscious, was finally sent to the hospital. Ivy had a miscarriage and didn't receive timely rescue. By the time she was sent to the hospital, not only did she lose her fertility, but she also developed a persistent illness. She felt pain all over her body when walking. My parents and Owen came to my residence and knocked on the door desperately. I said to them in a cold voice, "Don't you even think about how I managed to take these pictures? Go back and take a good look. Figure out where these videos were taken from." I watched them go back and break those teddy bears apart. Eventually, they discovered the cameras installed by Ivy. I heard that my parents were so angry that they almost beat Hank to death that day. And he is still lying in the ICU now. In their furious state, they didn't pay attention to the force they used and accidentally damaged Hank's brain. As for Ivy, she had done too many things beyond what my parents could tolerate. Not only did my parents not spend money on her treatment, but they even blocked all her contact information and threw all her things out. The incident at the engagement banquet was posted online, and a large number of onlookers got a lot of juicy details. This is so outrageous. Am I reading a novel? I mean, Hank's endurance isn't that great. He always finishes in just 2 minutes. Ivy has never had anything better. So no wonder she was so eager to marry Owen. Is Owen any better? The videos are so disgusting. The Fang group and the John group, they'll never get another penny from me in the future. The reputations of the two families deteriorated day by day, and their stock prices plummeted. The John group couldn't withstand the pressure, and my parents were completely devastated because of their son going crazy and their adopted daughter's shameless deeds. Soon, whatever lo sigh, the John group declared bankruptcy. The Fang group was in a slightly better situation, but Owen completely let himself go. He no longer hides anything he does now and seems to be determined to give up completely. I heard that he went gambling with some friends to seek excitement and numb himself. Unexpectedly, he fell into a trap and owed a huge amount of gambling debt. The Fang group was already on the verge of collapse, and with his actions, it also declared bankruptcy. On TV, I saw that when the two families moved out of their villas, they were crying their hearts out. They moved into a cheap rental house and ate steamed buns and pickled vegetables every day. Owen, who had been used to the life of a wealthy young master, found it very difficult to accept such a huge gap. In order to get money, he did everything. He gambled, committed fraud, and even engaged in theft and robbery. One day, when he was robbing someone, he accidentally killed the person and was naturally arrested. He was sentenced to death. In court, he knelt on the ground, crying with snot and tears all over his face. Why? Why did it turn out like this? When Ivy woke up from her coma, she found herself all alone. She called her parents helplessly, but no one paid attention to her. She couldn't afford the medical bills and moved into a welfare home. Since she could remember, she had been a young lady who had everything served to her. How could she stand such a crowded and dirty environment? Before long, her mental state also deteriorated. She stumbled to her parents' rental house. After knocking on the door and opening it, she stabbed a knife into their chests. In the eyes of her parents, who were filled with despair and shock, she let out a roar. Why? Why don't you care about me anymore? I'm clearly your daughter. I'm the real wealthy daughter. I'm the only real wealthy daughter. I was about to marry into the Owen family. I was going to be the young mistress of the Owen family. From now on, I don't have to rely on anyone anymore. She set fire to the house and burned herself to death in it. They were all dead. Hank in the mental hospital wasn't in a better situation either. He was electroshocked and beaten by other patients every day. But he couldn't feel any pain anymore. The last time I saw him, he was lying on the ground, licking another patient's shoes. Ivy's feet smell so delicious. I want to be with you forever. I have always been alone. I was alone in the past. And I will be alone in the future. I'm not afraid of being alone. I firmly believe that my future will definitely be bright and glorious. The end.